Hi, I'm Donna Brash from the St. Johns County Public Library System and the Bartram Trail Branch Library, and I have the honor today to have the author John Shallman with me to talk about a very personal family story that he wrote called Return from Siberia. Hi, John. It's an honor to meet you today.
Hi, Donna. It's so good to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I was so excited when I heard that you were willing to do this with me. From the moment I saw your book and began reading it, I was touched by the personal story that you shared of the first-person experience of your grandfather in very turbulent times and his life and his difficulties and how he immigrated to America. Do you want to share some of that with us?
Sure. I'll tell you a little bit about how the book sort of evolved. And the notion of writing a book was not something that I had ever really considered. I'm not an author professionally. I'm a political consultant. And obviously, I spent a lot of my time helping others develop their stories, their narratives when they run for office. And so the circumstances were really sort of destiny. There was fate that I was able to discover a story written by my grandfather over 100 years ago. And he had been sort of a mystery in some ways to our family, a mystery and also a legend. He died before I was born, and his wife, my grandmother, Rose, was the only grandparent I knew growing up. So obviously there's always a longing to reach back into the past and get some understanding of what their lives were like, their experiences were like. My grandparents immigrated from Russia, and my parents were both born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and I was born and raised in a smaller town, Rock Island, Illinois. So I was really disconnected from that experience of what it was like to be in a different country. What was the political turmoil in that time? And this was all pre-World War I. So I was fascinated by it, but I never really got an opportunity until we had that manuscript and finally had that manuscript translated. And it just was riveting to read chapter by chapter of my grandfather in his own words, what was going on 100 years ago. And of course, he was a revolutionary in Russia, and sadly was exiled to Siberia for 10 years. And so the book, as it was translated to us, was so sad and tragic on so many different levels, because he was 15 years old when he was sent away. And I have young children that I could just only imagine how horrific it would be to have one of them extracted from our family and sent to Siberia, which is almost like a death sentence back then.
Correct.
And his family to escape from Russia to America. And the whole journey of how he was able to find his family again, not just survive Siberia, the brutal Siberian winters, and those experiences were described in great detail. So with all of that, I decided I had to tell the story. I had to write this book.
Well, he came here on the Lusitania.
That's right. That's right. So there were some remarkable things we found out about his experience, not just when he was in Siberia, but his travels across Europe, finding his way to a ship to get him to New York, how he would be able to find his family, who, by the way, we didn't have iPhones or GPS systems back then. So how in 1913 can somebody find a family member who is thousands and thousands of miles away? It was remarkable how that happened.
It was the story of the pearl earring.
The story of the earring. I'm not sure how much you want me to give away. I want people to read it and be surprised, hopefully. But there's
that little teaser of the pearl earring grabs them.
Yeah, it's a part of it's. There are two earrings, and he had one, and it was about finding its match and finding his family. So that was a little bit of a needle in a haystack treasure hunt that amazingly. Turns out well. So it was remarkable for me. I had two options here in writing this, Donna. One was to just release the translated manuscript, but it had such a profound impact on my life and my children's lives and my wife and my whole family. I really felt like it was important to tell that story too. How important it is to know that the stories that have come from generations before us touch you and reach inside you and inspire you and guide you. Oftentimes we're looking to the sky and say, God, or please, someone give me the answers, right? And here was some answers really literally in a book. And so it's like speaking to my grandfather 100 years ago. So I felt like that needed to be communicated and the impact his story had on my life.
I love the way that you tied the current events to past events in the book, and the way that it feathered into your family's experiences. But there's a lot of love in your family. I could feel that through your writing.
Thank you. Well, family is everything. Family is our heart. It's our soul. It's our passion. Everything we do is for our family. And that's a universal theme. You don't have to be from one country or from one religious background. It's a universal theme, family. And so I thought that would be the heart of this, literally, of this particular story, is how important it is to connect to your family stories. And I always remarked, because it's such a big thing now, to get their DNA tested and send it off into a test tube and have some white coats send you back, here's who you are. And I always thought, are you really just that? That's just chemistry. It's biochemistry. It's not really who you are. Who you are your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, their stories, their struggles, their triumphs, their tragedies, their romances, their adventures, and how that gets passed through you to your children. That's who you are. And that's the essence of what I was trying to communicate in this book, through telling the story of family. And it's universal. You mentioned universal themes. It's universal. We all, by the way, in America come from somewhere. Unless you're indigenous, your family came at some point to America. And what that means to have come from somewhere else to find your American dream, your version of an American dream. And I thought that was really important, because we're talking about that today, what that means and how important that is to everyone to experience that.
You're completely right. I know I did the DNA thing, but I did it because I don't have the kind of family story that you have. I don't have a journal, which I thought was such a treasure for you to have. So it at least gave me an idea. And through that, I have made connections with people that I would have never met that share DNA with me. And most of them are really fascinating, nice people. It's been a good experience for me. And I think that's why I'm drawn to stories like yours, because those treasures, like your journal that your grandfather left for you, are not common. And it really is a fabulous story for you to have shared with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a labor of love. And when you have the opportunity, as I had, to get this first-person account of history, and I love history, I love historical fiction, I love to be in the place, in the time. And one of the things I wanted to do in this book, it was really important to me, because of books I read, I want to close my eyes and imagine myself there. And if there are words that give it a sort of cinematic flair, I want people to imagine this being a movie. I want them to start thinking about who would play that character, and to really start to get themselves into it visually, as well as the words and the feeling that are behind those words. So it was really fun for me to write it. I'm a huge fan of history, as I said, but also movies, so historical movies. And I wanted this to feel quick-paced, but also something that people could connect to visually.
Well, you did that for me. I thought it was done very well. You offered to read a little bit from the book for us.
Sure.
Would you do that now?
I'd be happy to. So I've been asked several times in forums like this to read what it was like to be on a boat, to be on a ship, as you sail into New York Harbor, and to be an immigrant on that ship with so many dreams and hopes, and what it would be like to be on that ship. And so I'll read the first paragraph of chapter 11, which is entitled Land of the Free. When I finally saw her, the feeling was overwhelming. She was taller than I expected, her expression resolute, stoic, and unwavering. She appeared to be staring directly at me. Of that, I had no doubt. But I was hardly alone in my certainty. Indeed, a collective roar rose across all 6 decks of the immense steamship as it lumbered into New York Harbor, its great horns bellowing as if exhaling a celebratory sigh, while thousands of immigrants ran to the ship's rails to get a good look at the magnificent colossus that greeted us. Each one of these hopeful souls felt, as I did, that Lady Liberty was here to welcome us individually and personally, like a long-lost mother. That feeling made up for all the suffering we had endured to make it here. So that is not a unique perspective. There are millions of people who came to our country who had that perspective, but it was so, for me, given his journey to that point, it was such a remarkable moment to be in America and what it was like to finally arrive.
He was very candid with his feelings in his journal, and I was amazed at how well written it was, because my journals are not like that. But he did self-publish it so that it existed, and I was very touched by his words many times. So I wanted to show my patrons today how to go to our website, and here is your book, Return from Siberia, in our catalog. And all they have to do is place a hold, and there you go. I find this so helpful to show people how to do this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today and your sharing your very personal story. And I hope that maybe you'll write another book and we'll do this again sometime. Thank you so much.
I'd love it. Thanks so much, Donna. Take care.
Bye, sir.
Hey, everyone. Please like, share, or comment today's interview, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you go to the St. Johns County Public Library System and read all the great books that are out there.